Hello and welcome everybody to another game of Scythe. This is Joy Division and today I'm going to be playing the Togawa Innovative board. So, 3-player match, we've got Crimea and Polania, which are both very powerful opponents in this format. With only 3 players, Polania has plenty of encounters available to them, and Crimea is always going to be strong in a 3-player situation because of Scout. They can control combat cards as a resource by intentionally draining a player of their combats and really preventing someone from having the impact they would like to have from a board presence standpoint. So 2 dangerous opponents, but I have a great board. The innovative board is really strong. It's gonna have like lots of perks to it, which include producing to deploy. So being able to put a lot of mechs out will be my best friend here. You'll see the board would like you to upgrade a lot. That's not something we want to do though. Upgrading is very slow, and Togawa is already slow to begin with. We want to be fast. So right now I've moved. This is a pretty typical move for me as Togawa. I like to move my character 1 space and move a worker to the village. I need to do this because moving repeatedly, moving like every other turn is something that's very important for Togawa to do. They aren't very fast, so you have to make your way consistently towards the middle, or else you'll be out of luck by the late game. One thing we need to keep an eye on here is what build is Crimea going to do. They have the mechanical board, and there's a couple ways you could go with that. 5 workers, 8 workers, fast mechs, slow mechs. It's a very versatile board. So one play we have available to us, since we can produce to deploy, is an early invasion. So is this a good idea? Probably not. However, this encounter is good for us. We can get power that we desperately need, and that's going to enable us to do 5 workers if we wanted to. Unfortunately, I already moved my workers because I want the early deploy, and I chose not to put a trap down. I am not putting a trap down because no way is anyone going to touch that tile in the near future. There's just no chance. So I'm not really worried about it. I don't really care about it. When I produce, I instantly deploy, so the metal's not going to be sitting there anyway. I put this mech down as a... I'm gonna keep my cards close to me because Crimea doesn't have any metal on the table. So I know I'm gonna have enough time to take their encounter, which is worth it to me. In a 3-player game, if you can derail one of your opponents, that's a big advantage because there's only one other person involved who could, counter strike you. Like you going all in on one player in a 5-player game, for example, it leaves you open to several players to pick apart. You're gonna see me move to the left, and I'm still not gonna put a trap down. This tile is not important. I'm gonna be able to control it anyway if I want to, very easily. So what I'll do instead is just put a mech on the tunnel and get all 3 workers on iron. The plan here is just to produce 4 mechs and take Crimea's encounter and put a trap down. I think that effectively will end their game because they have no cards, and even though they have a lot of power, you can't be spending a lot of power and expect to win. Cards are much more valuable than power. Polania has a mine and a mech, so they'll be out of their base soon. I build Toka, and my cards are on the table. I plan to go into Crimea's base. What I need to keep an eye on is what mech do they make, and what trap am I going to put down. They bolster now, so they have quite a bit of power, and here's their mech. They choose speed, so speed's going to enable them to get there with both units, but they don't have the cards they need to fight me. That means that if I put the card trap down, they are really out of luck. So that's exactly what I'll do. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna make sure this will work. I think that as far as what to do with the other movements, you can see I'd like to go to 5 workers, and I have enough metal on the table to deploy without having 2 workers on that space, because I had 3 previously. And considering fighting Polania, but that's a bit too much. I mean, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew right now. One good reason to do that, though, if you had only 2s, you would just want to fight Polania, utilize Ronin, get rid of a 2. I got this encounter, and I can instantly turn it into an enlist, which is amazing. So I'm going to take the 3 food and use it as a bottom row action. I could take option 1 to be safer, but right now I can put the card trap down, so I don't care if Crimea benefits from this enlistment that I'm about to do. Every time I enlist, they get a card, but they have less than 2 cards, so this is fine. I'm going to take a 2. I'm going to get the coin bonus for deploying. I need as many coins as I can to be competitive. The only way I'm going to win this game is if I can beat Polania in the long run. I'm definitely putting myself in a position to beat Crimea because they're done. Like, they can't get metal now, and that's a very important resource for them. You'll see right now that they are just out of luck. It'll be interesting to see if they just pile up all their workers on the farm and stay there, or if they dive me because they need to move again anyway. Like, 8 workers on food is not going to do you much good. Okay, so they have no cards. I'd be shocked if they spent more than 4 power, which they don't. Okay, so that's a victory for me. That also sprung my trap though, so I need to get out of there fast. I can't just sit there and get attacked again. This is excellent though, because if I'm thinking about where the rest of my traps are going to go, I'm absolutely going to put one on Crimea's oil tunnel, so that even when they are recovered and ready to leave, they're going to take another big hit on that tunnel. The power trap is what you want to do there, because if they can stay at low power, you can keep them down. You can keep them in a place where they're not able to regain board control. I need Shinobi, not Sutan. Sutan would be okay if they were faster, but they are just now getting out, so I'm okay waiting on Sutan. I got Foundations of the Empire, which is super lucky. It's nice to have an easy objective star. Usually Togawa has a tough time getting objectives done, especially if they involve controlling 3 territories of one type. So I have like three of my 4 mechs, and Crimea is set up to move on their next turn. So I need to move, and I need to get out of their base. I built Shinobi, and this is gonna sound like really mean, but I'm gonna throw a mech into Crimea's base purely to arm the trap, purely to make sure that they have an even slower progression out of this situation. Hitting the 2 combat card trap again would be pretty devastating, so I'm gonna just arm that trap and make sure that they can't get metal for a long time. And as long as they can't get metal, I'm in a great position. I can consider this like a one-on-one at this point with Polania. All right, so I need to set up my workers. I have 3 and 2, so that's gonna get me both the worker star and the mech star on my next turn. That'll put me to 4 stars already. And then that means that I can get 1 more combat for star number 5, but I have to figure out a way to get my 6th star. So a couple options. We can try to go for power. That sounds ridiculous because I only have 5 power, but Ronin is extremely powerful. You can get 2 power per combat, and you can get up to 3 combats in 1 turn. So that's like a huge boost to power, and you can really like get it quickly if you consider that. The second route is enlistments. I have 1 enlist, so I could go for 3 more. I'm probably not going to do that unless I find a factory card that lets me enlist. All right, so here's that 2-star turn. I deploy Sutan and I finish my workers. This is like the dream scenario for Togawa, because now I can just spread out as much as possible and hold territories down. Togawa is more of like a stalling faction, so to pair them with a board that's fast, like the innovative board, It's kind of exciting. Taking a look at what our opponents are up to, Crimea built Riverwalk, which I disagree with because they can't really get out. They don't want to Riverwalk right now. Like, I have a trap on the oil. They also don't have Scout yet, and Scout would be pretty devastating because they could hit the combat card trap and then take a card from me afterwards. So even though they have 0 cards, they would have 1 card. The trap would be useless, basically. Okay, so back to us. Polani has a lot of food. They also have mechs. So we don't want to mess with that tile right there. Like, we don't want to do a 2-on-1. We just want to set ourselves up to take the factory. I intentionally go onto the lake because if I get attacked on the lake, I get to throw 2 cards, and I also get to use Ronin. So that's a very powerful spot to be in. Togawa on the lake with a trap is just not going to be your first target as an opponent here. Considering an attack, you would just never go for that. Otherwise, I need to spread out. I choose to take the factory with a mech because if someone attacks me there, that's a great scenario for me. I get to bolster my power with Ronin, and I can retaliate with my character who's just standing nearby. The key for me, wow, okay. They ate the trap. They just moved to the oil tile. They really want their oil, and they ate some power. They had a ton of power, so that doesn't hurt them very much, but I did not expect that. I thought that trap was going to keep them in their base for a long time. I was kind of counting on that, actually. Okay, so this game's moving a little fast here. Let's get it under perspective. Polania. They're moving like crazy. They're eating up a ton of encounters. That's a pretty valid strategy as a Polania player in a 3-player game. Encounters are great for you. You get 2 out of 3 options, and they're usually pretty powerful. They have 2 mechs. They need 2 more. They're on metal, and they have a ton of food. So they're going to be, hopefully, like if I was playing Polani right now, I would hope to finish my enlists and deploys in the next few turns because I have 0 stars. And you see that Togawa has 4 stars, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know how far away. Yeah, I guess the number one thing that's hurting Polania is they only have 2 workers, and they need to get that to 8 like ASAP because they can't really spread out very well with only 2 workers. Back to me though, I'm gonna upgrade. I have had that oil for a while, and I choose to upgrade Bolster because it's like potentially the most useful option. I could have done like a 2-pop, but my bottom row that I upgrade is Enlist. So I still don't know what I'm gonna do for my last star, but I talked about having Enlist as an option and having Power as an option, so that upgrade kind of keeps both of those options open and more appealing. I reduce the cost of enlisting, and I increase the amount of power I can get in 1 turn. That encounter is pretty good, actually. So Polani's been finding all the resources via moving and not so much with production. I move to the factory, I get to put my final trap down. If you look at where my traps are, it's pretty comical. They are like a straight line up from Crimea's base, which is not very common. Like, you don't get to do that very often, so it just feels good. I'm also moving on to Crimea twice. Why am I doing this? Well, they don't have Scout, and they also don't have cards. Well, they have 3 cards, but the point is, I want to get some better cards, and I also want to keep the pressure on Crimea because I've invested a lot of time getting them into a weak position. So they spent power there, which is awesome for me because now I can get another combat star that they're in this weaker position. I'll likely just spend this 3, and if I lose, I lose because Ronin is doing a lot of work here. I just gained 4 power this turn, and I also was lucky enough to get that star there. So that was an awesome turnout. I didn't think they would do it in that order, but I guess they really needed to keep the food tile open to them, which does make sense actually. So they're right back at it, trying to get their oil. Because they could move, like, it makes sense that they threw that fight, so they know they can come right back. But for me, I just get Ronin triggered again. So a third Ronin. That got me all the way up to 10 power. I don't care about the oil. I don't care about losing this fight. I just really, really am happy that they attacked me back, because now I'm much, much closer to that power star than before. I mean, if you rewind one turn, I just shifted 6 power. So that's pretty crazy. Polania gets another encounter, and they also move their workers. I don't know what they're doing with their workers, because they just put one on food and one on wood. So maybe they have an objective. Oh, I probably know what they're doing. I think they're getting one of each resource potentially, but maybe not though. I guess we'll see. So I have 5 stars, and I also have 6 power to go. So I think what I would like to do is set up for Ronin again, but to do that, I'm just going to grab an encounter so I'm adjacent to more opponents. This encounter is too bad. I wanted like coins here. I wanted coins or some power. 2 pop is like a wasted choice, but it's better than spending coins. So right now, if you look around the board, I am on a tunnel, I'm on the factory, and I'm on an adjacent tile to a Polania mech. But because I have Shinobi, I could fight 3 people at once here, and that would boost me up to 16. Okay, yeah, so what I'm gonna do here is get 6 power this turn, get my power star, end the game. I think it's gonna be super tight as far as score goes, but I do have a lot of territory, and I think that'll be enough to give me the edge here. So there's 1 from the tunnel, 1 from Shinobi, and then I'm gonna walk across this river for number 3. Crazy game. Ronin has given me 6 power 2 turns in a row, all the way down from 4 up to 16. So this is by far the most, like, the largest abuse of this ability I've ever seen. Hopefully it works out in a W. It'd be sad to see it get a 2nd place after all this. I messed up here. I should have gone the other unit first, but I think it'll be okay. Polania's probably going to throw everything, and they do. Makes sense. Get a star. But yeah, here we go. Last bit. Now it's supposed to let me do the combat, but I know the digital edition is going to stop the game right away. We'll let the credits roll and see what we get here. 6 stars. 18 points from that. Tier 2 is hard to compete with. We're already tied with Polania. Oh gosh, it's going to come down to coins. Okay, close one. There you go, Togawa Innovative. Thanks you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.